I'm Kevin Craven.
I'm Brandon Alexander, and this is Vibable,
where we invite you to tune in and catch a vibe. All right, testing 1 2, testing.
testing.
Hey,
hello,
testing.
Hey.
I'm just like looking at this audio track to make sure it's not
Audio
fucking
track
with me.
levels check. Unique New York. Hello.
Oh boy,
That's how the professionals do it, man. That's a trade sound check.
Unique New York. Unique New York. I have
Matt
heard
used to do that all the time. Well, I think that's from like Anchorman. Will Ferrell's like warming up before a broadcast. But yeah, Matt,
okay.
I mean, Matt, a bass player, not a vocalist, would like do vocal warm-ups before shows.
Why is Matt doing?
I mean, why wouldn't Matt do that, right? That is a very Matt thing to do.
I love it. You know, bass players need vocal checks too, okay? So
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
I support
They have
it.
voices too, right?
They do. And guess what? Their voice matters. It matters.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. What's going on? What's going on with you? What's up with you this morning?
Oh, you know, I'm set up in the conference room at work. So if you hear some like, I don't know, voices in the background or our door chimes whenever you open it. Mm-hmm. So apologies ahead of time if any of that happens. There's some other peeps here, but I'm having a pretty good morning. I've got some munchies. I've got some real fruit tastes better lime seltzer.
Okay.
So, you know, yeah. How about you? What have you been up to?
Well, first of all, real fruit does taste better. I am doing good. I got me a little meditation in this morning, and
good.
I'm good. I'm good. I have no complaints. So look, okay. I've been waiting to ask you this because you told me the other night that the Chipotle curse continues, and I want to get into this because you ordered from Chipotle again, the same Chipotle, and they did not put your chips in the bag. And so when you told me that, I like developed this theory where whatever app you're using, like once that Chipotle sees your name through that app, they're like, fuck this guy. They're like, don't put his fucking chips. Don't put his protein. They just like...
I mean, what? So your theory is that they are just randomly, they have it out for me?
I feel like they're just fucking with you at this point.
I mean, that is possible. And if so, I mean, I guess objectively speaking, that can be pretty funny. You know, just like if it's like a teenager or something like that, just like being a dick. Yeah, I could see like if I was in high school and like a friend of, I don't think I would do that to somebody, but I would probably crack up if like my coworker decided to do that. So yeah, it's not an outrageous theory. You could be right. And okay, so first of all, you specify like I have a choice to order from other Chipotles, right? This is the one that delivers. Okay, let me just get that out there. And then it's like $16 compared to any other thing that I'm gonna get delivered, which is gonna be 20 and up. You know. So, I mean, sure, the answer here is go grocery shopping, Brandon. Be a responsible adult, Brandon. Cook your own food, Brandon. But you know, short of that, you know, Chipotle is the cheaper option. So chips, no chips, I think I'm just going to remove the chips, and maybe it goes the other way. Maybe if I don't put the chips in the order, they will mess it up and just give me them anyway. Maybe that happens.
Maybe. You know, I really feel like you need to speak up. I feel like you need to complain. You're spending money and you're not getting what you're paying for. You need to be complaining.
That's true. And this last time it was ice cold when the burrito bowl was cold.
Oh man, this Chipotle is not trustworthy. Chipotle, if you guys ever listen to this podcast, we want you to know that, A, we don't dislike you. It's just this specific location that Brandon orders from. Okay? Secondly, if you want to sponsor this podcast, we support that too. And we'll continue to support you. Speaking of Chipotle, I got an email from them yesterday saying happy half birthday. It says we got you a little something. So it says tap to reveal. So I'm going to tap right now to see what it is that they're sending me as a half birthday gift.
That's intriguing. So how does Chipotle know that it's your half birthday?
I guess when I had the Chipotle app, I entered my birthday.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it says, Kevin, you're halfway to your big day. To celebrate, we got you a free fountain drink just for being one of our favorite Chipotle fans. So thank you. Thank you for the half birthday. Wow, that is so nice. Yeah, if you enter your if you enter your birthday, I guess they'll send you little treats and stuff. So maybe I don't know. You should use the app since you order from them so much and you can get points.
Yeah, maybe. Does the app have a delivery option or is it just for pickup?
They might have a delivery option.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got to. I mean, they've got to.
Yeah. All right. So maybe that's their way of being like, stop using these third-party apps, get ours, and we're going to hook you up. And we're going to get you half birthday gifts. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, maybe that's... But you're still spending money, okay? Like, you need to get your money's worth, and you need to complain, all right? Now, yeah, that's unacceptable.
Is there a complaint... Is there a complaint tab in the Chipotle app?
Well, whatever app you use to order, when they ask you how it went, you can respond there, right?
Oh, that's true. I always just ignore that. But I think, yeah, you're right. Next time I'll give him a piece.
You need to talk to Mom because Mom would never have this happen ever.
No, I mean she'd be pretty upset in that I'm not buying groceries.
Oh, I know she would.
Frivolous. Yeah. There's a litany of things that would be wrong that Mom would be upset about before we got to the ineptitude of this Chipotle location. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. Hey, Mom. Love you.
Download the app, and also you gotta complain. You gotta get your money. Now, speaking of like food apps, I want to talk about my dinner briefly last night because I'm pretty proud of it. Okay. I think another reason you should order the Chipotle app is because sometimes the apps have things that the delivery service apps don't offer. So last night I was coming home from Brooklyn and I was looking for like a really cheap dinner. And so I thought about McDonald's and I'm like, these days McDonald's isn't so cheap. So I was like, let me download the app, right? So I download the McDonald's app for the first time. And I saw this deal. I don't know if it's just through the app, but when I arrived there to pick up my order, I didn't see this deal anywhere. So it was this deluxe crispy chicken meal with a medium fries and a big ass drink. It says a medium drink, but this drink was huge, okay? And it was the whole meal for $5. Not $5 plus tax. It was $5 for everything.
Even. Yo.
Even. It hit the spot. It hit this. It was absolute. Listen, we're not going to sleep on McDonald's and we're not going to play. It was delicious.
So this was a chicken sandwich that you got. How does that compare to another place that will not be named that you have a soft spot for? As good?
Well, okay. McDonald's, let me just say this. You don't have my favorite chicken sandwich, okay?
Okay.
But your chicken sandwich is not to be slept on. It is a well done chicken sandwich, okay?
All right, so what's all on this chicken sandwich?
So you have the option to get regular or spicy. I always get spicy, and for McDonald's they just add a spicy sauce, which is delicious, and I got deluxe, so they add lettuce and tomato. And it's on this delicious bun. Like this bun is just it's beautiful. It's just so delicious, okay? And
wow.
It was crispy, it was fresh, it was hot. Like I walked from McDonald's to home and I ate it and it was still hot. The fries were amazing. It said a medium fries, but this was a lot of fries. So McDonald's, McDonald's app, like, yeah, I highly recommend it. It's clutch.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I'm not my eating habits aren't the best, so staying away from fast food as much as possible is like a big thing. If I can just, I don't know, fix a chicken salad. But you're selling this chicken sandwich.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
I love those moments where, because right, just because it's fast food doesn't. It always has this negative connotation as not healthy and all this stuff. But you know what? When they have those moments where they hit it and they hit it right, it can be as good as any other meal anywhere. You know?
Absolutely. And listen, I'm not eating fast food every night. I myself rarely eat fast food. But again, sometimes it's like, look, I'm not cooking. You got to look at where you live, what's around you, and you just gotta make it work.
And then for any of the listeners that might be judging, right, when you talk about that we eat fast food even though it's not all the time, you know what? Just because you don't eat fast food doesn't mean that there's other versions of McDonald's in your lives, right? So not to accuse anybody, but in case the thought entered your mind, you know what I'm saying? There's other versions of McDonald's here. Reality TV, social media, binging, right? All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's just always associated like with food, like where people feel like it's easier to judge you. It's like, oh, you're putting that into your body.
Right. So easy. Easy.
Are you kidding me? like oh man, you're killing your brain by being on social media all day. You're also killing your brain by watching mindless reality TV, which I'm not shading because I love me some ratchet TV. So, but I'm not going to sit here and judge nobody.
No, never.
Do
We'd
you?
Never do that.
Do you?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite musicians who's alive today, Lizzo. She was on Hot Ones.
Oh, she
week.
was. She so was. Oh,
yeah. I obviously I have my opinions, but I'm so curious. I want to hear what you thought about it.
So I had seen an interview with her when she was on David Letterman's, I think it's like My Next Guest or whatever his Netflix,
on Netflix.
Show is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't really know a lot about her, so it was nice to discover that she's classically trained and just the type of personality she is, and she's so honest and herself, and beautiful, and so I loved it on Hot Ones when she expanded on like the musicality behind her music, and how cool for a pop artist to kind of speak in these music theory terms and how thoughtful she is about hooks and about melodies and about times. She mentions time signatures.
She
like,
did.
Heck yeah.
She talked about her song Rumors. He asked her about that, and she got into the major and minors of the drum pattern.
Yes. Now I love Hot Ones. I love Sean. And he did say he wasn't sure if he was pronouncing it right, but I think he said Phrygian, but it's Phrygian, the Phrygian mode that song is in.
I thought he did,
but yeah, that was so awesome to. I just love anytime you can get an artist's insight into their process. I'm about it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you said, there aren't a lot of pop artists who really breaks down the music itself or even knows about the music itself. And she was asked, when you went into, creating your new album Special, you first mentioned the drum patterns and how you kind of wanted to go back to the 80s a bit and speed up the drum patterns, and she did that. Like there's one song on her new album called To Be Loved, and it's like this 80s vibe and the drum patterns are faster, and just being a part of that process, and not only being a part of it, but knowing the music, knowing about the drum patterns and the majors and the minors, it's just so impressive, especially for a pop artist. It's amazing. Yeah,
it really was refreshing, and it could just be the nature of the interviews and the TV spots that that actors and musicians have to do, because they're just kind of on the surface, kind of shallow questions to begin with, and so maybe their answers reflect that. But you get the impression anyway that some other artists, aren't as attentive, and they're just kind of dishing out, hit after hit after hit without much consideration for the musicality. So I loved hearing that, and I love the moments. I mean, she's always herself, but like this one moment where she said something and she goes, "That was cute, right?" Or like, "That was cool, right?" Like to Sean. Yeah. So like you can see like these little like playful insecurities, and then her random question about is Gordon Ramsay cool? Like, I love those moments.
Yeah, she mentioned, I know what moment you're talking about when she said, "Isn't that cool?" It was like a reference to one of her songs, and then she kind of like looked to him like, "Isn't that cool?" And she also did like the DJ Khaled reference, because I guess when he was on there, he stopped early on.
He only did 3. Yep.
Yeah. No shade to DJ Khaled.
She brought him up twice.
Yeah, she did. She said, "You thought I was going DJ Khaled that shit?" She's so fun. She's so fun, and she's so honest. And I do hear a lot of people say she's too much, but they still like her. And I'm like, if you like someone, is it worth saying that? Is it worth saying that they're too much? Just if you like someone, like them unconditionally. Like, we don't need to hear that. The butts.
That reminds me of when people like comment on how someone laughs. Have you ever heard someone say like, "Oh, your laugh is," or just to define someone's laugh?
I've heard that my whole life.
I always felt like that was, and I always felt that was so rude, because laughter, the very essence of laughter, is like when the joy and the happy just boils out. It's so much that you have to have this kind of physical reaction. And so, yeah, anyone who like says that like, "Oh, she's too much, but I like her," I don't think that's genuine. I don't think that's fair. Yeah. Because I like her because she is who she is. Too much is it's not a quantifiable thing. That's very subjective. So
yeah,
I think she's wonderful.
I totally agree. Yeah, she's wonderful. She's delightful. She's also just incredibly talented. Like, we know she sings, we know she plays the flute, and we also know that we know she's a big girl. And to be on stage, like, I don't know if you ever watch any of like her live performances where she's dancing, she's singing, the microphone is on. She's singing, she's dancing, and then she'll break into playing the flute. Like, this is gonna cause you to be winded. And she's doing all of it. So she's a superstar. Yeah. She's amazing. I enjoyed her on Hot Ones. She was a great time. And she spoke about how she grew up in Houston, and then she moved to Minneapolis for the music scene because it was such a good music scene. Now, Brandon, okay, I know you grew up in Florida. Now, I forget. We always talk about this, and I like always forget, just like I always forget the metronome. So
that'll just be a random reference for the listeners. No context. He just always forgets the metronome. Move on. Continue.
When we start, Brandon plays the metronome so that we're lined up time-wise, and I always forget the process, and he's always like ready to remind me, like, "I got you." I need like to write it down or something. But
no. I'm happy to help. Happy to help.
You're so patient. So like I said, we always talk about this. When did you move from home, Florida, to New York? And we know like the reason Lizzo did it was for the music scene, and obviously you're a musician too. Was it for the music? Was it more than just the music that that sparked something in you to want to leave home?
Yeah, so I moved to New York in let's see, it was still April 26th, 2011. I moved to New York April 26th, 2011. So music certainly had something to do with that decision. The year before that, in 2010, I was touring as a duo with this guitar player, and that kind of gave me my first taste of, I guess, playing professionally. I mean, I had gigs in college but they were, orchestral. And so that was kind of the first time I was able to really flex the drum set chops.
Okay.
And the project itself was certainly not something that I knew was going to be long term, but it certainly, like, I caught the bug, so to speak. And then also, so I did that for like half a year, and then I was like bouncing between, dad's house, mom's house. I was a server, in South Miami, and I started to become aware of just how comfortable life was getting in like a bad way. You ever been in a place where there's not, when you have certain comforts, you lose the motivation to better yourself or to explore, this or that in life?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, so that's kind of where I was. And so it was either going to be LA or New York. And I said, weighing the options, LA is, it's certain, the cost of living was certainly more. And there's different types of music that you can get into, West Coast versus East Coast. But in the end, with dabbling in Broadway musicals in college, and really just loving that as an art form in itself, New York was it. So yeah, in 2011, I made the move. I just needed to. I couldn't be complacent where I was, and so I didn't even really have a plan. I had maybe $3,000 in the bank. No job. My cousin Kate she was moving from Jersey to New York, found us an apartment. I had a room in Washington Heights, and I hadn't even seen the place. I saw the place for the first time once I got there. So
yeah, it's crazy. Like I literally moved here like just about a year before you to the day. So it was April 10th for me, 2010. And I wouldn't say, first of all, I want to say that for you to realize in your early 20s that you were in a place of, I guess, stagnation and comfort, and you didn't like that feeling. I think that's very mature. I think it says a lot to know that and to realize that. And I wasn't in that place, but I knew that I wanted to pursue the arts and music in particular at that time. And it was really my uncle who lives in New York, has lived in New York for some time now. And at the time he mentioned to me, you need to be in a place like New York if you want to pursue the arts, because there are so many opportunities here. And also similar to you, I quickly got my stuff together. I had a lot less than 3 stacks in the bank account like you did. And I only saw pictures of the place that I was going to live. And I didn't see it in full until I got here.
And isn't that funny that that's a similarity? I mean, we have our stories are pretty similar in lots of ways, but I feel like that's a testament to the type of city, the type of place that New York is. There's something even, I mean, you had visited, and I had also played there a couple times on that tour in 2010, but that was only, a night at a time. But there's something about that city that makes it okay. Like, it's that worthwhile. Like, I've got an apartment. What does it look like? I don't know. I don't really care. It got us there,
Yeah. And it either works out or it doesn't, right? And if it doesn't, you can just find somewhere else to live. And thankfully I did like where I was living. Like, I liked the area. It was a house with a couple of roommates. It was fine. And
was your first borough in Queens? Is that right?
Yeah, it was in Queens, in Forest Hills.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. When you moved here, you kind of knew what you want. I mean, you did. You knew what you wanted to do. You knew that music was gonna play a big role in your New York journey. So
Yes. As to how that was not clear at all. But yes, that in general, the pursuit was the arts, was music.
yeah. So like looking back at it, do you feel like making that move, leaving from home was necessary?
Yeah, I mean the music scene in Miami is super niche. You know, so if you're a DJ, you have lots of places and you're gonna do well in Miami. If you're and that was really it. Maybe like Latin jazz or other genres of jazz might have done well at that time. Since then, a lot of even before I made the move, a lot of the jazz clubs were already closing. The jazz clubs that had been here for forever. And as it was, even my orchestral gigs and then some of the other musical work I had done was all north of Miami. I was going to Broward, West Palm Beach, Boca, Jupiter. So, the vast majority of work was outside of Miami anyway. So, musically speaking, I had outgrown that area. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it kind of, it sounds like it was definitely necessary. And yeah, you needed to expand, like not only musically, but you said you were comfortable and you didn't like that feeling. So you also needed to just like mentally expand and get away, mentally and physically expand and get away from what you've always known. And I want to ask, do you feel like leaving home changed you? Do you feel like if you didn't leave home, you would be who you are now?
Absolutely not. Because part of it, that's a multi-part question, or there's several parts to the answer, I guess. So
Yeah.
part of it is getting out of the influences of my immediate family, for better or worse. So like I feel like you can find this when you talk about politics, where whatever the topic is that comes up, someone might ask you what your stance is, and then you might say the answer, and then in that moment, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but as you're saying it, you're like, oh wait, I don't know if I necessarily think of that, but you had this stock answer from somewhere, right? And so I feel like when you're in immediate proximity to your immediate family, your thoughts and views aren't necessarily your thoughts and views. They're
True.
likely more so some regurgitated similar response as mom or dad or brother or aunt
That's
or whoever.
Such a good point.
And so making that move kind of forced me to remove that safety net, not only in financial security and living and all this kind of stuff, but yeah, just the thoughts as a human being that you develop, as an adult. I needed to be on my own and figure those and begin to figure those things out for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true because and a lot of people don't realize this, and this is why I think it's so important to at some point move away from where you grew up, because like you said, you begin to regurgitate pretty much all of the beliefs of your family, because it's like, this is what we believe, and it's like, well, this is what I believe, and you don't really challenge those beliefs. And when I moved from Maryland to New York back in 2010, I thought it was solely, for the arts. And I had no idea that I also needed to do that for so many other reasons. Like I needed to find myself because I did not know who I was back home. I had no idea. And I thought I did at the time. I was 22 and I just thought I knew who I was. And arriving to New York and it doesn't even have to be New York. Like, just moving away from home in general, you're going to learn things about yourself. You're going to discover things about yourself that you didn't know, or I feel you never would have learned had you stayed home. You have to get out of that zone of comfort, and you have to get around a new environment that challenges your beliefs. I just think it helps so much. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. I didn't realize that I needed it at all. You know, and listen, I'm not against anyone's beliefs at all, but I was very religious, and I'm not anymore. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being religious, but I discovered about myself that it wasn't for me, you know, and I think I think it's so important. You learn things about yourself, and you find things within yourself that you didn't know were there. And it really just brings it out of you to leave home.
And so I knew that you were religious as a younger man. Now I forget, were you not exposed to secular music as well? Like, were you just listening to Christian music, and it was in your 20s that you discovered like Lupe and other artists that now have influenced you? Was that the case?
Oh, no. I always listened to secular music, even though I did feel like I wasn't supposed to. I did listen to it, like, even as a kid. Like, I always listened to a variety of music, but to your point, most of the music I listened to was gospel music.
It was okay,
yeah. But
gospel is a great musical influence to have.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And gospel music, it has influenced a lot of different genres of music.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, that's interesting that you had that feeling of, I shouldn't be doing this, huh?
Oh my God. It was not only the music, it was so many other things that I just really, because of those religious beliefs that I was taught growing up in my hometown around my family, that I was not supposed to be doing. There were so many things that I would beat myself up about, obviously being gay being one of the biggest ones. And
yeah, about how long after you made the move, so you're settling in Forest Hills, that you start to kind of explore that part of you and start to be able to be honest about your sexuality and preferences and that kind of stuff? Was it almost immediate? Like, how quickly did you form the friend circles that you have that allowed you to start to be this truer version of yourself?
Well, that started before I moved to New York. It started later though. Like, I was probably like 20 when it started. And my uncles, when I came to New York for the first time, I got really close with them right away. It was just like an instant bond almost. And once I went back to Maryland, I called one of them up and I told them, and we talked on the phone for probably at least an hour. And that was just, God, that was so sweet. That was because, okay, these are not my biological uncles. And to have just met them, and for them to just be to just take me under like that, it's like, it was just the sweetest thing ever. But yeah, he was like the first one that I told, and he just comforted me a lot and made me feel like it wasn't as big a deal as I always made it to be, or as my environment made it to be as well. And I started to feel better. And once I moved to New York, it did just, there was still a lot of internal homophobia within me that I had to deal with, and that I needed to deal with, in work environments. I wasn't me. I'll say, I'm not going to say out. I'm going to say I wasn't me, Right. And I still played the game of being attracted to women in certain work situations. And it did, even once arriving, it did take a while for me to really, come into that, to come into me fully.
So did those instances at work deal, was that like dating these women, or just in the role that you were playing, kind of flirting with them?
No, it wasn't dating or flirting with them. It was it was being around other guys and them having conversations and them pointing out certain women and just kind of playing that game. And, you know, I don't know. Had I stayed in Maryland, I'm not sure how that would have went. I'm not sure how it would have, you know, like before I moved to New York, I did tell my mother who I really was. And, you know, so it wasn't like I waited till I moved to New York to tell her. But it wasn't until like 2015 that I like texted, I texted my godbrother and I texted my siblings, you know, that I'm gay. And, you know, I don't know. And again, had I stayed home, I don't know how or when that would have happened. So just moving away and getting out of my comfort zone just opened me up to so many different layers of myself that just kind of, you know, took away a lot of that fear and a lot of those phobias that I had in regards to being gay. And it's self-discovery to leave home, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the crux of what we're talking about, self-discovery for sure. I mean, the early relationships that I developed once I had moved are really the core people who, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but really are what shaped me into the musician and the artist that I am today. You know, I almost immediately, you know, Zach was a grad student where I went to college, and he had moved to New York sometime before I did. And so we had connected once I moved. He knew that I was like hard on cash. And so, you know, him and his wife would, whenever they'd be out of town, they had this mini Greyhound that I would house sit. I used to house sit when they were in Miami. And so he had a place in the Village. So, you know, anytime I would house sit, his wife would leave snacks and food for me in the fridge. Like it was just very nice. And
nice.
But he had a rehearsal spot in Brooklyn that he was no longer needing because he was upgrading his apartment, and his apartment had a studio space for him to practice. And he knew that I was looking for, you know, a place to practice, and he asked if I wanted to, you know, if I was interested. And that room is the room that Matt and Dan at the time were renting. And that's where it began. You know, I'm introduced to Matt and Dan indirectly. I was just the random other drummer who shared their rehearsal space. And then there were times like I'd be in there. I forget what the days were, what the schedule was like. But in any case, I'd be in there transcribing and playing, you know, this song or that song. And Matt would come in at random, having to like pick up his bass or grab something, and then he would strike up a conversation like, "Oh, what are you working on?" He was also into odd time signatures and all this kind of stuff, and that began the relationship. You know, where, you know, further down the line, Matt's in a band, and that band needs a drummer, and so on and so on. And then through them, I met Greg, and through Greg, you and I met. We just collaborated with Greg.
Yeah, we met on Band Mix.
Band Mix. We met on Band Mix. But okay, but I was only on Band Mix because there was a therapist that I had a couple sessions with before I moved to New York, and he happened to know about this site. He just recommended, "Oh, I know about this site, Band Mix. It's a social media site for musicians. You should probably get a profile." And so I established that, you know, way before I moved to New York. So there's all these things in this self-discovery stage, which I guess you're not aware of. Or you can't pinpoint it when it's happening, right? It's a feeling that we have, like, I need to move, I need to get away. Exactly as to why, maybe you can't put into words right then and there. But, you know, all these things are getting set in motion for the self-discovery stage, or the beginnings of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that preparation stage. Just, I feel like the universe just kind of places people and things in your path, like that therapist who told you about Band Mix, or my uncles who I met before I moved to New York, who suggested that I move to New York. You know, I feel like if you want it to happen, you know, it'll happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I clearly would not be who I am right now if I didn't take that leap and leave home, I don't know who I would be. I've grown so much, and I see why people say and speak on the importance of moving away from home, even if it's just for like a year. You get a sense of what's out there, and how what's out there isn't what you grew up learning always, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more beneficial than not to just like pack your shit up and go and do some self-discovery. It's inevitable.
Yeah. I would at least, I mean, in your case and in my case, yeah, it was an inevitability for sure. So when you land in Forest Hills, like did you immediately get into catering and serving? Like, what were some of the odd jobs that you were having to do early on?
Yeah, so okay, yeah, to answer your question, it was catering. It wasn't catering right away though. So when I got here, I was like supposed to get like this security job, and
oh, okay.
And I like went to interview, and then they like asked me for a deposit because I would need to pay a deposit in order to get training, the necessary training that I needed. And so I paid them this money, and it turned out to be a scam, and I never heard from them. And so I didn't have any money. Like, I was already low on cash because I didn't have any income. And I was buying groceries and stuff. And so it got to a point to where I didn't have any groceries, and I didn't have work yet. And I went into the city, I forget what for, and I hadn't eaten that day. Like the groceries that I had, I was going to save it for dinner. And so I went into the city in the summer, and I was like coming home, and I got on the train and I fainted. I literally blacked out and I fell on the floor.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I woke up, and it was like just when it was like when the train had just come, and I got on, and like literally like 30 seconds after being on the train, I blacked the fuck out. So I woke up, and like the people on the train in New Yorkers in 2010, they were so nice. They're still nice. They were just more nice back then. Like, so they had like an unopened bottle of water. Someone had like some bread, like they were offering me.
Yeah.
It was really nice. I was that annoying ass sick passenger who stopped the whole train.
That's right. You delayed hundreds of people, Kev. Way to
go. And so the ambulance came, and I got on the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Good. And then I went home that night, and I told one of my roommates what happened, and he was also very kind, and he made me a sandwich, which was so sweet. It was so kind. He did not have to do that. I appreciate that so much. Kyle, shout out to you, man. I still got your perler bead Rod Serling picture in my room right now, which is amazing. All that to say, I did not have a job initially, and then I got into catering because I had catering experience anyway, and I worked at Tribeca Rooftop, which is a whole episode within itself. And
that's the spot by Penn, by Penn and Madison Square Garden, right?
No, this is further downtown. It's literally in the Tribeca area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was there for a while, and I did catering for years and years.
I love to hear about those moments of kindness, because I feel like anyone who doesn't live in New York or has spent more than a vacation there, the perception is that people there are rude or harder than people in other cities. But I think that's largely to do with just how film depicts New York, right?
Oh yeah.
But early on, too, I have some memories of just kindness. I was in the village somewhere, like around West 4th, and I had like an Android at the time. Not to start a debate or anything, but you and I are Apple people here. And the maps I was lost, right? Even with my smartphone, I'm lost, right? They didn't have the apps now where you can just plug in your destination and it tells you the train and it tells you the train schedule and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And someone walking their dog just saw that look on my face. They just recognized that lost look, and they're like, "Can I help you?" Just on their own accord, asked if they could help. Oh, so nice. And then one of the early gigs I had, I still had my red drum set, which was it's an 18-inch bass drum. It's just like a small compact kit, and I had the whole thing on me, right? So all the drums are in cases and they're strapped over my shoulder, over my back, and all this stuff. And so I have all these drums that I'm carrying, and I mess up the swipe at the turnstile for the train.
Yeah.
And I have an unlimited, and so I mess it up and it doesn't go through, and now I have to wait the 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, right? And I'm like late for this gig. And so I just, I'm an even keeled dude, so I just stand holding my drums in front of the turnstile, just kind of like swiping every couple minutes, And then someone goes, "You need a swipe?" I go, "Oh, thank you."
Oh my
and it just
God.
Swipe me through. Oh, it was, yeah.
So sweet.
So there's plenty of acts of kindness in New York, and they always come when you need them most. Yeah.
Yeah, there are lots of friendly New Yorkers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, so because you landed in Forest Hills, and my second apartment was in Kew Gardens, so right next door.
Yeah.
And it's Kew Gardens, and then I forget the stops that it's JFK. There's only like a couple more stops, but at the end it can be, especially at night, it can be unsafe, and it's like desolate, right? So you're by yourself. And I was going home, and I fell asleep on the train, and someone just like tapped me on the shoulder, knowing what the last stop was like, and was like, "Are you getting off here?" They just woke me up to ask if I was getting off at Q, which I was, and that was lovely of them to do.
Wait a minute.
You getting off here?
Wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, see, you mentioned that. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. What train was this?
It was the E or the F.
It was probably the
been.
E. Okay, let me just say. Okay, they knowing. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I feel like,
Let's hear it.
While that was very sweet, I do feel like I feel like you're a white man, and there's no way this nice white man, this nice white man is going to Jamaica, Queens.
White.
He's got to be getting
Jamaica.
off.
Right.
He's got to be getting off in the white in the white area. So let me just wake this nice white man up. I do not.
Holy shit! That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. If it was, I don't know. That would have been everyone's experience. But what do I know? I'm gonna guess and say that it definitely would not be. But nonetheless,
you're probably. I think you hit another head there. Yeah, I think you're right.
But it was polite. It was polite though. That was kind.
At the very least,
stop this white man from going to the hood.
even some unblatant racism can be wrapped in a polite little bow. Jesus.
Yeah. I'll leave it there. I want to ask you. That is so funny.
Get at us in the comments. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. One last question. Do you have any regrets about leaving home and moving to New York?
There's a couple specific ones. I would say overall broad stroke answer, no. Moving was certainly the right choice and led to so many fantastic, amazing opportunities, both artistically and just life experience. But I got to miss, like I left, some people that I was close to back home, and I left, I had pets and animals that I was very close to. I had my childhood cat that was still around, and so whenever cats are intuitive in such a way that, like, when I would come back, he would be a little upset at me, for the first day or two, and then he'd warm up to me, and then we get into our old habits, and he would like, the thing that they do with their paws on my chest, and Binks was his name, and he would nibble on my earlobe at night before he went to sleep. And so when he, like, his health started to decline, and so that I couldn't be there for him, and felt that maybe that he would have felt abandoned or all this kind of stuff, that's like the kind of the one major regret. But I would say overall, I most certainly made the right choice, and don't regret it. Outside of that, yeah.
Good, yeah.
How about you? Any regrets that stand out, or?
So, I don't have any regrets. I do. I'm not close with my family. Like, as far as my siblings, like, we were never like super close to begin with. So I'm not gonna say that, I'm not missing out because we were never like super close, because I am missing out. I have a niece and a nephew that I never see. I'm a terrible uncle. I just like, I would love to just, in that sense, be closer. And
yeah.
I would say that is probably my only, that's probably my only, and my one of my closest friends is in Baltimore. I don't get to see him as often, but other than that, I don't have any regrets. I needed to come here. I needed to find myself, and listen, I just want to say to the listeners, even if it's not a major city you're considering moving to, wherever you decide on moving to, you're going to find more of yourself. You're going to discover more of yourself by leaving home, by leaving everything everything and often everyone you're going to learn so much about yourself. It's so liberating in so many ways, and I thoroughly encourage it. I really do. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and what's true about that is also true, like, why it's great to travel. You're to gain other people's perspective is what we're talking about. And it's so beneficial, and it helps us grow. And the more perspective that we all have, the better we can understand the world and people who are different than us. So even though it might be scary, it might seem like you don't have all the answers, or how am I going to do this, or what am I going to do for work? You know what? If you have that great support, or with friends and family, and even if you don't have that, if you believe in yourself, you'll do just fine, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And on that note, we are gonna wrap it up. And we thank you for tuning in this week. And listen, y'all, make sure y'all follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We are out here on these social media streets. So give us a follow. And thank you for listening. And if you haven't already, leave home. Leave home. Leave. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
All right.
This has been Vibable. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts.